Next, this ties in with PR steadfastness. The fact that, to an extent, the display is lacking. And largely, this is where smaller firms, the Anderills of the world, begin to win. Larger firms may conduct more rigorous displays, but their perception of lethargy is attempted to be combated by attempting to look newer. Wonderful modern tech firms that haven't quite crossed over into what one would describe as new age. It's pandering to these smaller firms, and it's not actually maximizing the USP of these larger firms, which is self-evident. I think firms have to pick a lane. Someone I talked to described it as schizophrenic. Schizophrenic branding. Defense bastions can't decide whether they are professional institutions of science and logistics above reproach, or modern firms that utilize animation, do displays with VR. Now, generally, this leads to firms trying to appear as the latter, a modern firm to the public and a professional, sophisticated client to the government. There are two solutions here. The first is to pick between the two, and then branding can be worked out, but it can't continue as it is. Alternatively, being the classically naive, idealistic Generation Z person that I am, there is an alternate solution that may be able to achieve both without looking inconsistent from an external point of view. In effect, there needs to be further differentiation between public presentation and presentation to professional collaborative bodies. Psychological study after psychological study will find that there is a threshold, the same with film CGI really. There's a threshold that has to be passed in order to stir a more powerful visceral reaction. And that visceral reaction is the realization of the profundity and potency of a particular developed system, and how it will have a direct effect. The idea that it will protect people, protect soldiers. You can't just pass that threshold, else human sense is overwhelmed, and the effect of awe diminishes. The Happy Valley, I think I once heard someone refer to it as. So, awe in itself, really, what defense firms need to understand, awe in itself is the manifestation of profundity and understanding potential. Firms in their marketing need to utilize better displays in order to connect with the public. This way one maximizes awe and the understood importance of the profundity of the solution. Now, it occurred to me that perhaps they're not doing this, perhaps they're not making it incredibly realistic, perhaps they're not making it incredibly demonstrative and incredibly storytelling because, again, you can't utilize CAD models, potentially, hyper-defined models that might risk replication. And of course that makes sense, or it would do if there weren't already a lot of detail in these videos. Images online of the real thing, detailed descriptions of specialized characteristics, all of that really. So I think that that is really where it comes in. If you're going to do it, don't go halfway, go all the way. Now, it occurred to me that the key here, again, is simple. One can't necessarily kill two birds with one stone. Either scenario is fictional. Each of these displays, if I look at a demonstration, an animation of the Spear 3 cruise missile, it's designed to inspire awe, and it carries a narrative. But there shouldn't necessarily be explanations throughout, as there are. It should be better animation, simply, and I think this is a problem which is quite easily solvable. You have two videos. Video is either meant to inspire awe, or it's meant to be informative. To impress, there is a clear distinction between awe and impression. And I know barely anything about marketing, but it seems rather self-evident to me that either one is creating a small film, or one is creating an informational video designed to show off the real-world capability and utilization of anything, a munition, a vehicle, a system. I don't know what you'd call it, graphical overlays perhaps, in the process in order to enhance the degree of impression. The issue is that the firm is choosing to go half and half rather than commit to one, each of which, if isolated, would have a far larger effect on whichever audience it was. Now, I don't know whether it's because these videos are repurposed, proposal videos shown to the MOD itself, or a nation's respective equivalent, but if that were the case, let's say, one can see the motivation. The motivation is to move away from the data sheets, inspire visceral reaction, to show, not to tell. And while this keeps a profile of professionalism, the people being pitched to can then see the real-world effect that inspires some sort of intuitive desire. It's more easy or it rather more easily makes the MOD understand the solution given because of the bridging of the gap between theory and realism. Now, I can understand the logic, but if this is the case, not only should the firm choose, but the display should be greatly stepped up. If there's going to be a doubling of efforts in order to promote one rather than the other, then each has to be pretty much perfect in its own right, and then they are combined. Now, talking to people in the industry who, of course, can't talk too much about the process, I might infer that the aim of lower animation quality makes it appear more professional, more informational, and for comprehension purposes, whereas realism works better in creating a sense of profundity, this sense of awe that I'm saying. Now, additionally, there is a third that could be added to increase impact. The idea of increasing, or at least introducing, more human lead presentation. As much as one loves the people within the industry, they're often engineers. They deal with supply chains or business strategy. Do I love all of those things? Of course I do, but potentially strict explanation isn't the best means by which to impart information. If you're going to have people explaining concepts, they need to be understandable to the layman, and the importance of their effect must be understood. And generally, what this requires is simple charisma. The sort of firms like Anduril do this quite well. They're able to implement this sort of process. People seem assured of the value, assured of reality. It seems to come from them, rather than read off a script. Assured of the effect and excited about the concept of the solutions developed by their firm. And larger defense firms could easily do this because they develop brilliant products, they have incredible people. And just generally, it seems like a no-brainer to me. Now, all of this, of course, seems frivolous. It seems like I'm promoting a senseless and useless appeal to public awe that will never translate into contracts. But actually, it's far more important than firms realize. Not least because better public image means more funding, and actually it's important to get more funding, but it's important to assure the public that what one is delivering is effective and good, i.e. it's not a waste of money that they, as the taxpayer, are having spent on their behalf. Additionally, it's really just important to show the public what their nation can do, what the technology that their nation is developing can do. An increase in public perception, in approval, in understanding leads to superior outcomes for any defense firm, including contracts. And I might unpack that in another video. All in all, it's about finding a new fine-tuning that properly conveys what it needs to. I think the reason many defense firms do this is because of two things. They want to attract talent, or they want to improve their public image. This is why they have this schizophrenic branding. They go between incredibly professional presentation for the MOD, or the respective agency in any country, and then they try and appear cool to those they want to employ, or the public. Now, all I would say is that there are better ways to do both. Again, kill two birds with one stone in this scenario. People have a good public image of a business, and those who work there, they really want the same thing, and it doesn't come from the firm acting as if it's incredibly cool, even if it is. The point is that these firms aim to entice people in both the public and their potential employees, with things designed to impress them in a fairly superficial manner. People don't respect a firm or want to work for it because it's doing something cool, fun, impressive to others. People develop the desire to work, develop respect for a firm, particularly a defense firm, when they realize the importance of it. I love an explosion as much as the next guy, but what puts me into a state of awe is the realization of the immensity of the work a firm does. That's not an explanation of the guidance system, that's not a VR headset, that's not the exciting roar of a jet, as much as one can love that stuff. That's temporary, but rather the destruction of an incoming threat when the missile gets to where it needs to go. The lives that saves. It's the HUD being able to register a friendly unit, saving a family from the grief of a blue-on-blue death. It's the formation of fast jets roaring past to bravely defend our allies, our nations, our families, our way of life. Now, I'll speak more about this at some point, but I think it's reasonably self-evident, and it's simple. It's merely in presentation to the public and general branding. So I'll leave it there for today.